This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 17th, 2025. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Anti-government protests take place in Mexico City over the weekend as pressure mounts on Scheinbaum. ICE operations pivot to Charlotte, North Carolina as significant resistance is expected. Beginning with international events, in Mexico, weekend protests turned to riots on Saturday as various groups expressed their concerns with government. Analysts comment. Most of the demonstrations in Mexico City remained fairly low intensity by local standards. However, a few riots did break out throughout the day. These demonstrations are a continuation of the global trend of Gen Z protests, with many of the participants demonstrating for a wide array of causes, many of which are contradictory political ideologies. Nevertheless, all of the negative sentiment was focused on Scheinbaum, as dissent grows with her handling of cartel violence throughout the nation. In the Caribbean, the situation continues as before, with a few strikes being conducted on narco vessels over the past few days by the U.S. Navy. In Venezuela, tensions remain the same, with Maduro making more public appearances than normal, mostly commenting on the rising tensions with the United States. Over the weekend, Maduro serenaded an audience with an impromptu performance of Imagine by John Lennon, during remarks urging a peaceful outcome to the conflict. Analysts comment. If Maduro is attempting to soothe his population in order to reassure them that an all-out war is not about to break out, there are probably less disturbing ways to go about it. Either way, this embarrassing display probably does convey the seriousness of the situation, considering that Maduro knows the U.S. is gunning for regime change. On the home front, in Washington state, over the weekend, the U.S. Coast Guard successfully conducted a rescue of stranded boaters who were reported overdue after failing to return from their trip. A man and his son became stranded after their boat capsized in rough water in the Pacific Ocean near the mouth of the Columbia River. The boaters were rescued by a Coast Guard helicopter out of Air Station Astoria on the Oregon side of the river and transported to a hospital where both were treated for hypothermia. Analysts comment. Considering the cold water temperatures this time of year, it is undoubtedly a miracle both survived. This incident also highlights the importance of establishing and sticking to an overdue boater plan when carrying out outdoor activities, especially as we move into the winter months where search and rescue operations present many more challenges nationwide. In North Carolina, counter-ICE operations have intensified as deportation operations move to Charlotte as part of Operation Charlotte's Web. So far, over 100 illegals with extensive criminal records have been arrested throughout the city since the operation began a few days ago. Analysts comments for this wire. In Charlotte, a very interesting development was observed over the weekend as ICE moved into the area. The Compare Foods grocery store announced free home delivery of grocery items during the period of time that the ICE operation is expected to take place. This food store primarily serves the Latino community, and most of their social media posts are in Spanish. While they don't explicitly state it in their social media posts, the implication is clear. This company intends to cash in on the illegals who are ordering goods from home because they are wanted by ICE. As it stands, this is probably a PR stunt, but efforts like this put everyone in a tough spot. If the feds arrest the store management for aiding and abetting, the city will burn for nothing, and the same Charlotte judges who regularly let murderers go free will absolutely let a grocery store manager go free as well. On the other hand, if the feds do nothing, this could get out of hand, and the American people should expect many more corporations to conduct similar operations. Concerning the latter possibility, this is probably the most likely outcome, as criminals have become emboldened to an extreme degree over the past few years, and it is this small grocery chain that has pointed out a very important detail with American commerce. Boycotting a business because they are criminals only works if the bulk of customers are not criminals themselves. Charlotte is now experiencing what happens when a tipping point is reached in an area. When illegals are a minority in an area, one set of operational practices is observed. But when illegals, cartels, drug traffickers, and the like reach a critical mass, more open confrontations are usually the result. We saw this in Aurora, Colorado with Tren de Aragua when they openly occupied apartment buildings, and we saw it again in Los Angeles when cartels openly had their foot soldiers besiege federal buildings during the riots a few months ago. Once the hornet's nest gets kicked in an area, the local population find out exactly how much of a foothold criminal elements usually have in their home city. This observation is usually supported by a narrative shift. While in the minority, the criminals and those affiliated with them can claim that this is all about seeking a better life or some other general Disney film-grade scene of wholesomeness. However, once a critical mass is reached, they can drop the act and openly confess that this has nothing to do with any sort of humanitarianism. It's warfare designed to continue an assortment of criminal enterprises. Charlotte is discovering what the transition to this mask-off moment looks like, and locals in Charlotte have already organized to form quite significant community watch programs to resist ICE deportations of violent criminals. This continues a growing nationwide trend of immigrants and citizens alike conducting extremely brazen efforts to fight the deportation of criminals. Antifa de-arrest operations are now common, by which Antifa militants will swarm a group of police officers arresting one of their comrades and attempt to free the detainee, such as has become common in Portland with varying levels of success. Other cities have seen vehicle ramming attacks being conducted so as to halt an ICE convoy before the driver gets out and opens the doors of police cruisers to free the criminals held captive in the back. Meanwhile, on the logistics front, countless NGOs and now commercial grocery stores are providing materiel aid to those seeking to evade detention, all of which greatly conveys the sheer scale at which resistance to illegal immigration policing is being carried out. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 17th, 2025.